is here. Christmas is coming, but the pandemic continues to rage. It's now killed more than 1.5 million people worldwide. In the midst of so much suffering, the First United Methodist Church, Chicago Temple, continues to be a beacon of hope in the heart of the city. We welcome Reverend Myron McCoy, Chicago Temple's senior pastor. We also welcome Eric Nussbaum, the church's director of music. You've appeared on different drummers during the first wave of the pandemic. How has your church been coping with this second wave?
With the first wave, we had anticipation of it, coming to a close pretty quickly. So we've had to re-gear up, try to enhance what we were doing in terms of offerings to the congregation. And now we're at a point of trying to walk persons through Thanksgiving and Christmas with a sense of stability, but also recognizing that things are actually not the same.
Traditionally, Advent and Christmas are seen as a joyful time for family and friends. How are you bringing Chicago Temple's family together?
I think we're trying to give folks a sense of stability, a sense of hopefulness. And even though things are not what it would normally be, we're trying to create a sense of we will do the best that we can with what we have to work with. Our Advent studies are going on. We've had programming with children where they had a chance to sing and be reminded of the seasonal time. And then we have some things coming up for the week of Christmas. And I think Eric will talk a little bit about that.
Awesome. Eric, can you tell us a bit about the music you've planned?
Well, you're right, Rhonda. I mean, normally this time we are all pretty joyful. There's the Christkindl market across the street and everyone's, just bubbling and happy and with life and anticipation of the birth of our Savior. And but we've learned our shift has been towards recording. So I've been wearing my Tim Frakes hat, and we've been musically, we've been with my little iPad and a little microphone, all of our groups from the Temple Strings and our organist and some of his students, smaller groups of our bells, quartets of singers, our gospel choir. We even for the first time convened a flute trio last night that got together for the first time. And some of our instrumental players, luckily we have a big enough sanctuary space where we can really spread out and be pretty safe. And thankfully we have been safe and all that. I think what makes an authentic moment of music in worship is, it's a music that it's a moment that just happens, right? Everyone rises on that opening note of the hymn, the congregation stands, the choir, and we all sing in that moment. Great singers to terrible singers to people who can't read music and people who can. And there's that moment that we miss a lot, being in the presence with everyone. But what we've tried to do in our recordings, there are some recordings out there where you see a lot of the individual faces all singing from home and it's compiled together. But what we've really tried to do in our music ministry is try as best we can to capture that spirit that happens in that moment in a service. And in a recording, you push play and you go, and there are mistakes. You might miss a word here, but what we've been trying to do, as hard as it's been, is still try and capture some of that spirit. I mean, in some ways you can't help it. When you sing, O come, Emmanuel, you find that kind of solemn reverence, in the music. When we record Hark the Herald Angels Sing, you can't help when you're a singer, but sing it with joy. And so hopefully that is a part of our music ministry that's still staying true, even though it's just smaller groups. And it really hit me the other night when we recorded O Come All Ye Faithful, and got to do even the Yea, Lord, We Greet Thee verse, Born This Happy Morning, which we never get to do normally. And there were just 6 of us in the sanctuary recording this, and it was done, and we knew we captured it beautifully. But Rhonda, at the same time, it was like, that's it. We're not doing that hymn anymore. And normally we would be singing that with 350 or 400 people there in the sanctuary. And so there's rejoicing and capturing that moment, but it was also a lament and sad afterwards where you're like, that's it now. We didn't get to share this, with people like we normally do.
Rhonda, in some sense, even though it's a different time as we go even through the Advent season, I think people, because of the stay-at-home encouragement and folks doing less shopping, there's a lot. I think folks have a lot more time to do some deeper reflection of what Christmas and Advent is all about. And so we've been trying to encourage that, as I mentioned, through study, but also in terms of getting folks involved in our services who wouldn't normally be involved, getting families. They can't light the Advent candle here, but we're asking them to do it at home. And at the same time, we're giving them a view of the sanctuary with our Advent candles. So letting them know that they're home, but they're also here too, as we look forward to going back. And then asking persons to do some reflection during our offering times around the words that we use, like peace and hope and joy and love. And we're discovering that folks have really taken it upon themselves and are doing some great theological reflection. Being a congregation here in the city with a widely diverse membership, we have been intentional about providing services that demonstrate the inclusiveness of who we are. And so Christmas Eve will be a time where we showcase all of our musicians, from gospel to those who play flutes and strings and wind instruments, to celebrate the joy of who we are and who we believe God calls us to be, and sharing that love and the joy of Christmas with everyone.
Myron, I was thinking the exact same thing. I honestly was, because one thing I wanted to mention was, because we're not set on Sunday mornings where the gospel choir always sings at 8:30 on these Sundays, and the temple choir here, and the bells on the second Sunday, it's enabled us to share in the music making together in a different way. Like when we present Joy to the World, the bells are going to do the first verse. Kelly T-Bout, our gospel choir accompanist, is going to sing the second verse, and then the organ in the other choir will do this verse. We did that with Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, where the gospel choir did the first verse and we did the second verse. We couldn't do that on a Sunday normally because we're not together in the same service, but we can share in the music making and overlap in that way. And it enhances our diversity, kind of like Myron said. And in a way, we're free to do that where we weren't before. So there have been some small benefits to it as well. And I was thinking the same thing, Myron, about the diversity.
During this difficult time, where do you find hope in the story of Christ's birth?
I think I find hope in knowing that this is not going to last always, as the Jewish people were waiting for Messiah. Indeed, it will come, and our wait will be a lot less than what the Jewish folk had to wait for in terms of Messiah and a deliverance. And And so that's the hope I have. We know that there's something on the other side.
Thank you. And Eric?
Music does tend to lift people up, and it can either really ground you and make you feel really connected to something. This year we haven't been singing a lot of far out 8-part new anthems, or difficult choral music. We've been doing the familiar, recording the carols and all the familiar hymns. And so I would say just the light and the darkness is part of it has been, it's been humbling. We talk about Christ being born in such humble circumstances where, the dove cooing in the rafters was his lullaby, and the breath of a cow there next to him keeping him warm, and the blanket of the hay and wool of a sheep, just these humble surroundings. And I think that has helped keep me grounded and humble and thinking about the light. In a way, Rhonda, is the simplicity of the story, because our world is so complex and chaos and fraught with tension. And in a way, I guess that simplicity and going back to the carols, things that are simple and familiar, 4-part harmony that are all resonate with us. I think that's helped for my part.
Absolutely. So, Reverend McCoy, not everyone finds Christmas joyful, and many people are dealing with loss and being alone. How can we all minister to these people? What should our churches be doing?
Well, certainly we'll be offering what we call the longest night service. Some of churches call it, Blue Sunday, Blue Christmas. We do concerted effort to do grief counseling between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which occurs every year. And with so much loss in our communities with the COVID-19 deaths and many persons being unable to say goodbye in a way that they would have liked, it is important that we do walk people through their grief as we prepare for this season.
What is your prayer for everyone around the world during this pandemic?
I think as I look here at the United States, and we can see ourselves as a microcosm of the world, it is, we have a lot of complex problems that we need to overcome, and we need to find ways to work together, to move beyond things not going our way, elections not going our way, and work on the problems that we do have. So we have some vaccine now that will help with COVID. So we need to be talking about what is the best way to distribute it. How might everyone have access? And it's not only for us in this country, but indeed for the world, where it's not just about centered on ourselves, but on one another.
Thank you. Eric, your prayer for everyone around the world?
Is to treat one another with a little more loving kindness. I think it comes from the inside in a way, right or wrong, I feel like I want to approach everyone like everyone's a little bit broken somewhere inside and hurting and lamenting in some way, even if it seems simple compared to what some others are going through. To them, it's equally weighing. And so, Christ helps us bear our every load. And, with that hope, my prayer is that we will just treat everyone with a little bit more love and care, and approach every conversation and every interaction we have that way.
Thank you, Reverend McCoy and Eric. I'm Rhonda Hoskins for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries, wishing you a wonderful Christmas and a happy new year. Always remember, keep the faith.